So please join me in welcoming NEIU alumnus Carlos Jimenez Flores. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming and supporting this event. I love Northeastern. Northeastern, to me, was a place where I was able to find myself and get the necessary tools that I needed in order to succeed. And so the journey wasn't easy though. I had dropped out of Northeastern actually, and then I returned. And the reason being is that when you come from a family who doesn't support education because they don't understand the importance of education, because my family came from Puerto Rico where everything's about work and work and work. And so they expected the same thing out of me. And so there was no value in education. And consequently, being a trailblazer since I was a first-generation college student, you really don't have any assistance at home. And when you don't have any assistance at home, you have to rely on external assistance. The issue with my first time coming to college was that I didn't know where to go to get that assistance. And therefore, I found it very difficult to succeed the first time around. That's not to say that the tools weren't here, it's just that I didn't know where to go to get them. And so consequently, I ended up dropping out. The situation was, however, that because my parents who were divorced, because my mother did not value education. When I chose education over working in a factory, which I had been working since I was 12 years old, she kicked me out of the house, so I was homeless. And so I had to juggle working 2 full-time jobs and coming to Northeastern full-time, and dealing with the fact that I was homeless. So I kind of lost my way a little bit. There was a group of us, this being a commuter school, everybody gets to go home, but we used to do our little party on the side over there where they sell coffee. We used to call it the Bochinche box. And there was a lot of hanging out. And basically what happens is first generation students kind of like find each other and you start to hang. But if you're hanging around with your own kind, and in this case I mean first generation college students, then nobody really knows how to succeed. And so I learned that going outside of my comfort zone and starting to look towards other peers who knew what they were doing, that's what allowed me to succeed when I decided to come back to school. To me, education, this is what I learned the second time around. Education is really just information. And the more information you have, then I don't think anybody's born with intelligence, even Einstein, but it's like the more information you have, then the more your mind develops. And to me, I felt the second time around, I felt that I'm in charge of that. I don't want to rely on a professor to teach me what I need to be learning. I think it's a joint process. I was already making money at night. She never had to buy me anything. I used to fend for myself. I used to buy my own clothes, my own toys, my own everything. And the second thing she told me is that she didn't care what I did. She said, I don't care what you do, but you respect the house. Everything you do outside of the house. If you're going to stay out all night, just call me and tell me that you're staying out all night so I can just go to sleep. That's me at 12. So I have free reign. I appreciate that because it made me the man that I am today. But looking back, You know, I wish I would have had support. I wish I would have had a parent, but I raised myself. The street raised me. Now, here's the thing. When you come from a world where you don't have role models, then you have to find those role models externally. And so what I did was I latched on. It's kind of like almost imaginary, but I latched on to like Walter Payton and Prince. I love Prince. I'm totally embarrassed to admit that. But what I saw in those two individuals is the work ethic. Walter Payton worked his ass off, and he was chiseled. I got to meet him when I was in my 20s, and it was like a dream come true, because I'm like, dude, you're my idol. This is before he passed away. But, you know, he started laughing and we were cracking jokes, and it was because I used to be in the music business as a promoter, and we were promoting salsa night at his bar, America's Bar in downtown, and I got to meet him, and it was like, man, I just couldn't thank him enough for being that role model that I needed. And that's why when I hear people like Charles Barkley say, well, I'm not a role model, that's your problem. You should have somebody in your family be your role model. Well, there's kids like me who didn't have that, who there wasn't a man around. So who are we supposed to mimic? Who are we supposed to learn from? And so, same thing with Prince. Prince throws out an album every single year for like the last 30 years. And I see myself like, you know, like you said earlier, I became the first Puerto Rican in history to have 2 movies come out in the theater in the same year. Well, I just delivered my 3rd movie. I'm gonna have 3 movies in 1 year. I already filmed one in October, that's the 4th movie. I'm actually gonna have 4 movies in 1 year, and it's just nonstop. Right now, I'm already in pre-production for 5 different movies, because I just wanna shoot them, and I'm just waiting for the investors to come in with the money, and I'm gonna shoot those. So, that's the drive. That's where it comes from. Kind of like piggybacking on your question too. It's just, I chose 2 good role models that you see on TV or you hear on the radio. Imagine the children that are picking role models that is your neighborhood drug dealer, you know, or somebody who's not a good role model, or those guys they see, you know, on TV, you know, acting a fool. That's where the children get lost, because there's a lot of men who are not there for their children. And that's my experience. That's my story. Yes, I wasn't cool holding on to the past. Why am I holding on to that? You know what I'm saying? That's occupying too much of my head, and I'm a creative force. When I can't be creative, if it's clogged up with all that crap that doesn't even need to be there. So I flushed that toilet.
Carlos, you have just so many different experiences and obviously a lot to say. Do you find your movies have either intentionally or unintentionally have recurring themes?
None of my movies have the same themes, but there is a little bit of me in every movie that I make. And I don't think that it's possible for me to make a movie without a little bit of me in it. But I am conscious of deliberately setting certain tones and delivering certain messages, because I feel that people already get enough of the negative messages. So I feel like let me throw something to balance it out. One of my goals is to impact what people see. When you come, people who watch movies or even television programs, what they're watching on that screen, a lot of times, they're watching groups that they have never been around. So for example, me as a Puerto Rican, if there's somebody watching a movie about Puerto Ricans and that individual is not a Puerto Rican, and what they see on TV, they believe that that's how that group operates. And so if all you see when you see a Puerto Rican on television or on the screen is that Puerto Ricans are lazy, Puerto Ricans are gangbangers, Puerto Ricans are drug addicts, Puerto Ricans are drug dealers, if that's all you see, then that's that DVD that's playing in your head when you're confronted with Puerto Ricans in real life. And so to me, I wanted to do something about that. I wanted to show that although there's a small percentage of every group that is that way, Puerto Ricans are also doctors and lawyers and bankers and professors and all the professions. It's just that when you see them on television, they're not those things because we'd rather play it safe. Hollywood rather play it safe and just show the stereotypes. I never stop learning. I'm still learning. I may not be in the classroom, but I'm still learning. I do a lot of research. I still do a lot of research. There's a part of me that is itching to not only get a master's, but a PhD as well. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but it's inside of me and I know me. So my advice would be, and especially nowadays, you know, when I came up, we didn't have like the internet the way that it is now, so developed, and so you could just get, obviously you have to make sure that what you're learning is like, you know, it's real. But you could do so much as far as like researching and learning that you don't necessarily have to be in a classroom. But I feel that if you feel it in your soul that you want to be in the classroom again and get that master's, then you go do it. Because the vibe that I get from you right now, you're a very intelligent young man, you know? And so you've gone through a lot to even be here right now, you know? You've gone through so many obstacles. And so because of that, I know that you will succeed, whether or not you decided to go and get your master's. That's why I'm telling you, it is crucial for the world to hear your stories. You're a filmmaker, but I don't even like the word filmmaker. You're a storyteller. Start telling the stories that are necessary for your culture, your group, your people to hear. But more importantly, those outside of your culture need to see and hear those stories, because then, in our mind, things start to change, because now we're flipping scripts. Okay? That's very important. Thank you.